Hello students, today I'll be teaching you Pythagoras Theorem, Pythagoras Theorem, and I have an example here. Alright, the first thing that you need to know about Pythagoras Theorem is that you can only solve a question with Pythagoras Theorem when it is a right angle triangle. So this is when you can solve a Pythagoras Theorem question when you have the triangle right angle. So meaning if you have an isosceles triangle, for example, and you have to find the Pythagoras theorem of whatever you're given, it means that you are going to have to find a way of splitting, by creating a diagonal into this isosceles triangle. So after when you create a diagonal, so what happens? You have divided it into two. So you have been able to split it into two. So this way you cannot solve any of it. You cannot solve either A or B using Pythagoras theorem. Alright, so as you can see in this diagram, we have two right angle triangles. So we have the bigger one, that's triangle ABD. That's the bigger right angle triangle. And we have the smaller one, triangle ACD. ACD. That's the smaller right angle triangle. Alright, so we have to find the length of the mark letters. That's X and Y. Alright, so for us to find our X, it's very easy. So the first thing you do is draw out the two right angle triangle. So let me draw the smaller one, that's the triangle A. That is the smaller one, ACD. This is angle 90. And this is Y and 6 centimeters. And you also draw the bigger right angle triangle. That's, see the same thing. So you have B, you have D, and you have A. So for the smaller right angle triangle, our DC is 2 centimeters. While the bigger right angle triangle, you can see you have your 2 centimeters plus 3 centimeters. So from here to here, now give us what? 5 centimeters. And here is our X. That's for the bigger, so this smaller right angle triangle. And this is the bigger right angled triangle. So this is the bigger one. Alright? So both of them have the same opposite, 6 centimeters, 6 centimeters. But the adjacent are different because for the smaller, by the time you cut the smaller part out, you have 2 centimeters. So we have to find Y and X. Very simple. So from the smaller right angle triangle, with the smaller right angle triangle, so you have a smaller right angle triangle. So you have, so by Pythagoras theorem, the formula which says the hypotenuse square will be equal to opposite square plus adjacent square. Alright, so from the smaller our hypotenuse is y, so then you place the square equals to our opposite is 6 square, then plus our 2 square. So right now we have y squared. So 6 squared is 6 times 6, that is 36, plus 2 raised to the power 2 is 4. So therefore, y squared equals to, so 36 plus 4, so 36 plus 4, that's what? 40. So therefore our y equals to root 40. Alright? That's our y. So now for our x. So if you have a calculator, you can see solve by calculator. By calculator, our root 40. So by calculator, so I just want to do that by calculator. So by calculator, our root 40 degree will be 6.32 centimeters. Alright? Now to find our x, so this is to find our y. We've gotten our y. So to find x from the bigger right angle triangle. So we are going to have, so what's our hypotenuse? As x squared. We're still using Pythagoras, so let me use hypotenuse squared equals opposite square plus adjacent square. So hypotenuse is x squared from the bigger triangle, you can see, equals to our opposite is 6 squared, and our adjacent is 5. That's 2 plus 3, that's 5 centimeters squared. So our x squared equals 36 plus 25. Then our x squared equals to 36 plus 25, we have 61. Therefore, our x now equals to. So when you remove, so this from here, this is the same as we want to make x the subject of the formula. Alright? So by the time you want to remove this square, you say square root both sides. So when you now square root both sides, this is square root s squared equals to square root 61. So square root we always cancel square. So that's why we have our x equals to root 61. So this is how our x turns to root 61. So from here to how our x turns to still using the same method. So that's why our y equals root 40. So using this method. So our x now will be equals to. So that will be. So root 61 degree equals to 7.81 centimeters. Alright, thank you.